Country Countdown USA.
I'm Lon Helton, inviting you to join me as I count down the week's top 30 country hits with our co-host Blake Shelton, who tells me that he got a little career advice from Reba.
She'll say something, now you need to stop that. She'll pull me off to the side, and kind of scold me a little bit. Oh, I just messing with you about that, but you need to stop it.
That's Blake Shelton this week on CMT's Country Countdown USA.
CMT's Country Countdown USA.
It's time for this week's Top 30. I'm Blake Shelton, and here's a few of my hits. Some beach, she wouldn't be gone. I'm just too far from where you are. I wanna come home. I have a new CD that features this song.
Your hillbilly bone, ba-bone, ba-bone, bone.
We'll play those songs and talk about my new album as I count down the hits with Lon Helton of Country Air Check. Right now, here's Lon with this week's hottest song.
Well, thanks, Blake, and our radio stations give the honor to Carrie Underwood, Temporary Home. Each week, I'm joined by a top country star who stops by the studio to give me a hand counting down the hits. Along this week is Blake Shelton.
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
I am extra good.
What's the weather been like in Oklahoma? Is it snow there, too, and cold?
Yes, it's been unbelievable. I'm
just
telling you, this global warming is just freezing me to death. It's unbelievable. Yeah,
you're ready for that one.
We've had, I don't know, I'm sure, for Oklahoma, what I'm about to say is a lot, but I bet we've had well over a foot of snow this year, which is remarkable.
Of course, among the things we'll talk about here is your new six-pack CD that was released on March 2nd. But aside from the business stuff, what else have you been up to? Did you take some time off after the holidays, or?
I normally take most of my time off just before the holidays. You know me, I'm out there.
Is that hunting season?
Deer hunting, buddy. Right. And outside of that, just kind of floating around, really. Not that much going on. It's kind of been boring to be me this first couple of months. They're throwaways for me.
The new six-pack CD was in stores. Hillbilly Bone was in stores and available on March 2nd. But was it pretty much done, or were you working on it through Jan and Feb?
We were finished up with Hillbilly Bone CD in December. We knew what we were going to do and when it was going to come out, and we got it done. And it's been a lot of nothing since then. Just kind of ramping up for this release, and now it's out there, and I'm pumped.
Well, you ought to be. And as we get along, I want to talk a lot about your new CD, Hillbilly Bone. And, of course, we'll get to the title track up ahead in the top 5 as well. Right now, though, along with my co-host Blake Shelton, we'll get the countdown started at number 30. Here's Gretchen Wilson, Work Hard, Play Harder. Gretchen Wilson starting her countdown climb at number 30. That's Work Hard, Play Harder. Blake Shelton's along as our co-host this week. His current hit is called Hillbilly Bone, still ahead in the top 5. But I want to go back here and talk about a hit of yours from exactly 5 years ago, which is hard to believe. Talk a little bit about Some Beach.
I love songs like that, especially in my concert, Lon. You can imagine, after we do Goodbye Time and The Baby, and then Austin, people are out there, falling asleep and slitting their wrists, and I got to have some funny stuff come out soon, Lon. Please help me.
Well, it makes for a more interesting show. I'll probably say that.
Okay.
Well, let's get the song that started this whole conversation. It's our co-host Blake Shelton and Some Beach.
Driving down.
And up a couple of number 28, Rain is a Good Thing. I'm Lon Helton. Blake Shelton's our co-host this week. And up next is a buddy of yours, Reba, of course. And when she was in here as our co-hostess, she had this to say about you.
He's a character. He's a lot of fun and so talented.
Blake has become like the king of all tweeters on Twitter. Do you keep track of that?
I have stopped keeping track of Blake. I told him one day, I said, you're going to have to straighten up your act on that. I told him that my mama was following him. And, of course, mama does not tweet at all. But he cleaned it up for about 2 entries. And then it was back to what he was saying. But he's a character. I just love him to pieces. He's very entertaining and witty, and you never know what's going to come out of that mouth.
I don't know if that was very complimentary or not of Reba.
I think that's what they mean by left-handed compliment.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Reba is she'll say something. Now you need to stop that. She'll pull me off to the side, and kind of scold me a little bit. But you got to, if Reba McEntire's, if you've upset her, you need to straighten up. And so normally I do for, a couple of minutes, and then I'll go right back to being, how I was before.
But you won't even clean up for her mama.
She told me, she did tell me that, and we were at lunch one day. This has been a while back after she told me that. I said, Man, I'm sorry. I hadn't had any idea that your mom. I would have never imagined your mom back in Oklahoma is on. Oh, I just messing with you about that. But you need to stop it. So it was like she still got her point across
I
to me.
wouldn't mess with Reba.
No, I don't at all.
Well, that's a pretty good idea. I think you should stick to that. But on to the lady we've been talking about. Here's Reba at number 27. I Keep On Loving You.
Love takes the
Won't be lonely long. I'm Lon Helton. We're counting down hits this week with Blake Shelton. His current song on the charts is called Hillbilly Bone. It's way ahead in the top 5. But I want to talk a little bit about the video of that song, shot here in Nashville at the Hermitage Hotel. It actually not looked like it could have happened. It looked like it has happened.
Yeah, it did happen that day. It's Trace and I. We have, I think, interesting chemistry together, mostly because we don't care. We really genuinely don't care what people think about us. I mean, it's amazing how little we care about it. And so when we get together, it's a lot of fun, and that day was no exception, because he and I both been in those situations through the years. I know I have, where you walk in somewhere where good and well people don't think you belong there, and it makes you want to be there that much more, and just stare at them and get on their nerves. And so the video was so easy and so much fun for both of us, because we didn't need any direction. It was just, we knew we were going to walk in there and flirt with guys, the guy's girlfriend sitting right next to him, right in front of him, and flirt with the old ladies and be grossed out by this fancy food they serve us, and end up by the end of the song winning people over. We work, very well together, and it was one of those days at the end of it, it was like, that's it? No, there's got to be more. I feel bad. I don't feel like I did anything, and it's probably my favorite video that I've done, and it's odd to think I don't even remember ever one time thinking that we were working.
Yeah, and of course, folks can see the video for that song, and we also have some photos from that day that you shot the video, all at our website, countrycountdownusa.com. Right now, though, here are my co-hosts Blake Shelton and Trace Adkins with Hillbilly Bone. Didn't you know how much I loved you? I'm Lon Helton. We're here counting down the hits this week with Blake Shelton. And up next at number 20 is a guy who you spent a lot of time with on the road last year, talking about George Strait, of course. And when he was here, well, this is what George Strait had to say about you.
I like Blake. He's a good guy, and we've had occasionally a little time to spend together. And he's a funny guy, and it's been a great tour. It's been a package that I think fit really well with Julianne Hough and Blake and myself. It's we've all gotten along really well, and it's just been, the crowds have been great, and he's a very good singer, and he's very comfortable on stage, and it's just he's just a good entertainer and a good guy.
Wow.
There you have
I didn't even know he knew my name. That's awesome.
He thought we were talking about somebody else.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, I didn't get as much time. I'm sure to George we had tons of time together, but I didn't have nearly enough for me. You know what I mean? But the last night of the tour, we actually spent. He had a party, and we spent quite a bit of time just standing there, talking about hunting and fishing and just country guy stuff. You know what I mean? It was refreshing just to talk to him like a normal guy, because honestly, there's nothing normal about George Strait. I mean, he's not just a person; he's almost a place. I mean, he's that big of a character. You know what I mean?
And do you, when you talk to him those few times, did you change who you normally are? Did you kind of play it straight and talk about stuff, or did you try to make him laugh and kind of kid around, being who you normally are?
I don't get nervous that often, and it was one of those times where I remember, and my mind was just racing, going, say something funny, see if you can make him laugh, and it was just every time I said something to be like, well, I know, man, you remember when you did Pure Country? And be like, yeah, I was there, man. And then you realize, you blew it, and he walks away.
Well, here's the guy that we've been talking about. It's George Strait at number 20. I Gotta Get to You.
I gotta get to you,
Nichols picking up a pair to number 17, Gimme That Girl. We're counting down the hits here with Blake Shelton. His current top 5 is called Hillbilly Bone, but here I want to go back to a number one of yours from a couple of years ago and talk a little bit about Home.
Home was probably one of the most important, maybe the most important single of my career outside of the very first one, because it was a turning point for me, I feel like, and it happened for me at the right time in my career. You kind of hit that point where you're going along and people know who you are, but you don't really get to that next level, and it happened at the right time for me to where now I do have that opportunity to get this momentum and maybe become a bigger artist, but also. There's so much of me in my life on that particular record. First of all, the song is my life. That's what I do, and that's what I feel like most of the time. Miranda's singing the harmony part on the record for me, and that's me playing all the acoustic guitar work on that particular record. It's just, to me, that it's as much me as has ever been out there, and so I was really proud of it going on and being a big record.
And here it is, our co-host Blake Shelton and Home.
Another summer day.
Woods. I'm Lon Helton. Blake Shelton is my co-host. And up next at number 13, some buddies of yours, Rascal Flatts. And when they were in here as my co-hosts, Jay DeMarcus had this to say about you.
We've been jabbing at each other on Twitter for the past month. He's rude to people. He cusses them out. Yeah, he don't care.
I know. I thought you're supposed to be nice to fans. Doesn't media training include Twitter these
Twitter
days?
training.
Twitter training. It's right after toilet training.
Exactly.
Toilet
behind
Twitter.
it.
Some of them just downright call him a jerk, and I can't believe you're mean to people like this, and he'll just tell them to,
That's right. He has enough fans he can blow some off. Is that it?
Wow.
Not really. That's the point.
Well, that's where it's getting to,
You set him up perfectly for that one, didn't
That's
you?
my job.
Yeah, I knew that. He's right. Jay and I, we've gone back and forth on Twitter a couple times. I always, when he comments to me, I always ask him if he's one of those guys on the Rice Krispies box. Because I still believe to this day Rascal Flatts actually posed as the Rice Krispies guys.
Snap, crackle, and pop.
Yeah. No, oh my gosh, those guys I love those guys. Those guys actually have done probably more for me than, as far as other artists go than anybody else in the music industry, just simply by hiring me to go out on tour with them for a year and a half.
Yeah, we're talking about Rascal Flatts, and here they are at number 13, Unstoppable. Steel Magnolia up a pair to number 12. That's Keep On Loving You. I'm Lon Helton. Blake Shelton's in the co-host chair this week, and we've been talking about your new 6-song CD, Hillbilly Bone, and it kind of strikes me that it'll make the music-making process more like what you do on tour. It's an ongoing process, because now people tour every year, and then they stop somewhere to go do an album. But like a tour is kind of, you're constantly out doing shows.
Right.
Now you'll really just kind of constantly be making music.
Constantly be in the studio making records, and I think it'll be good for Nashville too. I think with an artist going in once every 2 years and recording some songs, and the gears in Nashville are kind of get rusty, and it's not moving as fast as it needs to move. I mean, this will be a constant in and out of the studio recording new songs. You write a great song, get it to me. We'll go in and record it. If I write a great song, I can go in and record it and have it out immediately.
It's just a lot more timely, but that also means a lot more work for you, because now rather than stopping down every 2 years to look for songs or write songs, you're going to be looking all the time.
That's correct. And if this works and it takes off, I'm sure there'll be a lot of artists that hate me.
Well, it's interesting because you're the
more
first.
than they already do.
This is the first. I mean, you're a groundbreaker, Blake Shelton.
No, it's. I tell you what, I think it's. I don't see how it could be anything but good. And I think probably the best thing about it, from a standpoint of as a fan, is the thing is cheap. I mean, it's like it'll be under $6 wherever you go. $5 and change, you're walking out with an album, and it keeps us happy, and it's a good deal, and I can go in and make a bunch of these things, and have a ball with it.
Yeah, and as we said, the brand new 6-pack CD is called Hillbilly Bone, and it's available everywhere. As Blake Shelton and I head back to the countdown, we're at 11 with Taylor Swift and Fearless.
Just something about the way.
Chesney up 3 to number 10, Ain't Back Yet. I'm Lon Helton. We're hanging out in the studio this week with Blake Shelton. And before we get on too much further, I want to talk about this party you were at here in Nashville a few weeks ago. It was for Miranda Lambert's very first #1 song, White Liar. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of a great party because things seem to be going really, really well for her right now.
She's doing it the way that the country greats did before her. She writes about experiences in her life, and people respect her and love her music for that. And man, nobody respects her more than I do. She's, in a lot of ways, Miranda's a girl that cries about stupid stuff and likes, to watch sad movies, and in other ways, when it comes to her music, I mean, she's a soldier. She knows exactly what she wants to do and how to do it, and that's pretty cool.
Miranda Lambert with the #1 from last month. That's White Liar. Of course, Miranda's boyfriend, Blake Shelton, is along as our co-host this week. And before we leave Miranda, I think the last time you were here, you told me about New Year's Eve 2009 when you and Miranda had this little shopping spree in the bus on the way home.
Miranda and I, when we left the concert that night, we were going on the bus to Iowa to a friend's house, and we had quite a bit of champagne at that point, and we were watching one of those home shopping channels. And we decided, because we were just drunk enough, that it would be a really good idea to buy these 302 pocket knives. And so we bought them 2 weeks ago. Hey man, you got this package down here you need to come get. And what is it? I don't know. And we had forgotten. And we got this huge box of there was literally 302 pocket knives.
Did anything with this New Year's Eve calmer or cheaper?
This New Year's Eve, I tell you what, we had planned on playing it pretty safe and low key. We just stayed at my house, Miranda and I, and 2 other couples, just friends of ours, came in and stayed for about 3 days until New Year's, and every day was a fun time. And then by the time New Year's Eve got there, everybody was kind of tired, and I think we sat down about 9 o'clock and started watching the Hangover, and I fell asleep after about 30 minutes of the movie, and then about 10:30, my mom came over and brought a pot of chili, and somehow my mom's presence brought out the party, and we ended up having a huge party at my house that night, just about 12 of us. So we had a good time, but we didn't spend any money on
No knives this year?
Nothing on the home shopping channel, no.
Good idea. Anyway, it is back to the countdown here along with my co-host Blake Shelton. We're at number 9 with Lady Antebellum and American Honey.
She grew up.
That's history in the making. Blake Shelton's in here as my co-host, and I know you want to talk about Darius.
I tell you what, Darius is one of those guys that... obviously, he's a rock star, and I think everybody kind of when he came over and wanted to make a country record was kind of. I didn't have any thoughts because I didn't know what to think about him and what he would be like and what his contribution would be, and I'm just crazy about the guy. I got to tell you, he and I, we wrote a song together last year, sat down and it was actually the first time I ever met him was the day we wrote a song together.
Really?
And yeah. And I'm actually pretty proud of that song, too. May end up doing something with it here in the future. But, we hit it off that day, and he's just a really normal, down-to-earth guy. It blows me away, because just about the time I moved to Nashville in 1994, that was right about the time that Hootie and the Blowfish was really, it was the biggest thing in music, and now to know him, not that we're best friends or anything, but just to have a relationship with him and to be able to call him a buddy, that's pretty cool.
We mentioned Darius was there at number 8 as Blake and I head on to number 7 in the countdown. Here's the Zac Brown Band and Highway 20 Ride. Easton Corbin up a couple of number 4, a little more country than that. Blake Shelton's in the co-host chair this week, and we now come to your song at number 3, Hillbilly Bone, that, of course, features Trace Atkins. So how did you decide that you wanted Trace to be your duet partner on this?
When I first heard the demo, it truly sounded like a Trace Atkins record to me. It honestly did. And I even turned to Miranda, who was sitting in the truck with me, and said, man, that sounds like a Trace Atkins song. And I can't believe he didn't record it, and it turns out he wasn't recording at the time, and the song went to me.
What did Miranda think when she first heard it?
The same thing she always thinks. It's like, oh, that's goofy. And then by the third listen, she's got it cranked up so loud, singing along with it, that it's deafening. You know, I've seen that happen at least 7 times since we've been together with my music. But the goofy part of the song is why I wanted to do it. You know, it's just something you don't have to think that hard about, and it's so true and it's so much fun. And our original idea was just to have Trace sing on the choruses of the song. And,
I had heard it started as kind of a small part and then grew.
And so then I made the call the second time, and I was nervous and, fumbling around. And Trace eats that up, by the way. He takes full advantage of that. I said, hey, man, will you come down and can you sing a verse now? Well, I already been down there once. And it was like, I know you did, Trey. Well, all right then. And knowing good and well, I knew the whole time he would do it, and
just had to grovel a little bit.
He just had to, push my face in it a little bit, and so it was a really, really cool experience. And there could have been a lot of people that could have sang on that record with me, but I don't think there's anybody else that could have made this record magic like Trace Atkins did.
Blake Shelton's our co-host this week, and of course, with Josh at 2, it means we've got a new #1 song in the USA, and it just happens to be by a guy who you wanted to talk about, Billy Currington.
Oh yeah, I remember the first time that I did meet him was in Kansas City. I was playing. There's a club there called the Beaumont Club, and we used to play it a couple times a year when getting started, and he was in town the night I played. They brought him up on the bus and introduced him to me, and he just and I said, man, well, sing us something. And he had my guitar there, and he grabbed my guitar and he played "Walk a Little Straighter," Daddy, which I thought was a cool song. But it hit me then, and it still does every time when I hear his voice on the radio. And I've told him this in person. He is my favorite male vocalist in country music. Just a really powerful voice, and stands out, and he's just, what a talented singer, man. It's amazing to me.
He's got that little bluesy thing going on, especially like in "Don't," and some other stuff he's done.
Yeah, it's awesome. I actually hate him for it now that I think about it.
Well, here he is, Billy Currington at #1. That's how country boys roll.
They wake up in the morning.
Countdown USA.
And there they are, the top 30 country hits in the USA, as compiled by Country Art Check. Our co-host this week is Blake Shelton, and before we let you get out of here, you got a few dates there where you're playing?
I'm going to be out in Oakland, California on April 3rd. I actually played that same show last year. It was a lot of fun. And then we're going over to Duluth, Georgia, May 1st, Columbia, South Carolina, May 2nd. So doing a handful of things here and there and ramping up for the summer.
And, of course, the new 6-pack CD that's just been out on March 2nd is called Hillbilly Bone, and a bunch of other songs. Hey, thanks so much, as always, for hanging out here and helping me count down the hits.
Thank you, buddy.
Country Countdown USA is written and produced by